Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Camper Report. It's been a little over a week since we have gone live. It'll just be me today, but we're going to go through, a few 49ers topics. Then we're going to go to the other spectrum of the NFL. We're going to talk about some of the big news: Ken Dorsey getting fired, Deshaun Watson getting his I think it's season-ending surgery, shoulder surgery, or just a season-ending shoulder, I guess you could call it, injury. I don't know. I'm not actually sure if he got shoulder surgery, but he's going to be out for the rest of the season. And why that trade that the Browns originally made was so bad. And then later on this week, probably on Saturday, I'll be making another live. Well, I'll be posting, videos about the 49ers upcoming matchups against the Buccaneers and breaking that down. And then also be, uh, posting a little bit more about the other upcoming matchups going into this next week. Another fun video that I want to do eventually, I'll probably get done, is breakout players that were drafted in later rounds other than the first round that are now contributing to their teams in a major way. One of those guys is Tank Dell, receiver for the Texans. And I believe he was a third-round pick, and now is really a big part of why the Texans are so successful this season and why CJ Stroud is so successful this season. But let's get into it a little bit more and just what we're going to talk about today. Deshaun Watson. I just touched him. He's out for the rest of the year. This news comes out that, again, we have a busy night for you guys. 6 topics, but let's get back to it. This news dropped yesterday, and I'm sure all of you guys have heard of it and are Browns fans are reeling right now, because this is a guy who I believe has played 12 games since he came to the Browns. And he was suspended last year. This year he gets injured, comes back, isn't even supposed to be playing apparently, but is playing. Then last week gets hit, now out for the rest of the year with this shoulder surgery. And the really crazy thing to me is the Browns, they came into to week 1 with no backup plan, because they traded away Josh Dobbs. This is the most hilarious thing. They traded away Josh Dobbs right before the season started. They got a pretty good pick for him. I believe it was like a 4th round, but let me silence my phone. They traded away a guy, Josh Dobbs, who's a solid NFL quarterback, who does a lot of things with his legs, who can occasionally make some plays because he has a good arm as well down the field. And they obviously now are relying on PJ Walker to carry your team. Well, to be your backup quarterback behind Deshaun Watson. And it's hilarious to me, because it's like they came into this season with no backup plan. They said, we are giving our complete trust into you, Deshaun Watson. Go take it away. Which is not a terrible idea. I mean, he did have injury issues in college, but you're trusting a guy who, obviously, with his legal issues, I guess he hasn't had that many injuries in his career in the NFL on the field, but he still is not a very reliable person. But let's get into the detail of why this trade was so bad and why the Texans are obviously now getting a better bargain that they could have asked for, because now they have CJ Stroud. Details of Deshaun Watson's contract: 5 years, $230 million. The problem with this, it's total guaranteed. None of it, there is no injury clause. He doesn't get, money taken away if he gets injured. It's completely and utterly guaranteed. And this is his cap hit. I can bring up his numbers now. I believe I have them right. Well, his cap hit for the year is $63 million. Well, next year is $63 million. Again, this year it's like 19. but it slowly starts to get really expensive. Deshaun Watson, $63 million. So totally guaranteed is next year in 2024, $63 million for Deshaun Watson. And it's going to force the Bills to make a lot of, I mean, they're going to have to get rid of, they have such a good defense now. They're going to have to get rid of a lot of players that are really good because they're just not going to be able to afford them. Deshaun Watson, $63 million. Myles Garrett is looking for a new extension. He's going to need money. They're going to pay him. And so, I mean, you're looking at Deshaun Watson plus Myles Garrett. You're looking at those two contracts, future contracts, $63 million next year, and then Myles Garrett most likely is getting like $30 million. I mean, that's over $90 million between those two guys right there, that you are spending in 1 year. So again, that's one super bad downside of why this, even not the trade, but the contract they gave him was outrageous. And it's not even like they can cut him, because if they cut him, his dead cap hit is, I believe his obviously average annual salary was close to 50 million. I believe his dead cap hit is somewhere, like, if it's totally guaranteed, his dead cap hit is going to be the same. Correct me if I'm wrong, but his dead cap hit is going to be the same as what is guaranteed to him. So it's not even like they can cut him, because he has so much guaranteed, so much money guaranteed, that they'd be wasting so much money. They'd be losing a lot of money if they cut him. So they can't cut him. No one will want to trade for him because he's injury prone and he's also had legal issues. So nobody trusts him at this point in his career. So it's just it's a tough situation. And I'm wondering who came up with this idea to get rid of Josh Dobbs at the beginning of the offseason and to trade for Deshaun Watson. Both of those moves were terrible moves, because they had no backup plan and they're trading for a guy who is very flawed. They're trading for Deshaun Watson a few years ago who was very flawed. But that's where it comes down to really the head coach, is if Kevin Stefanski, could we see him being fired? Because I'd really like to know who was responsible for getting Deshaun Watson and trading away Josh Dobbs. Because if Kevin Stefanski signed off on this, is that a fireable offense? I don't know. And again, it's not even losing Deshaun Watson isn't going to be like the complete end of the world, because I feel like TJ Walker hasn't been bad when Deshaun Watson has missed games. Again, Deshaun Watson, I mean, his stats weren't even that good this season. 170 attempts, which is 28th in the league. So it kind of shows that the Browns don't really trust him too much. Obviously, he hasn't played all 10 games or whatever that the Browns has played, but still 170 attempts, which is 28th in the league. So it's not like he's really throwing it all over the field. Again, about a little over 1,500 passing yards. Not 1,500. A little over, it's about, let's see. It's a little over 1,100. Sorry, not 1,500. 1,100 passing yards, which is 31st in the league. Again, he hasn't played all the games, but it's not like he's been gunslinging it around the field either. So the Browns they like to lean on the run a little bit, which shows that they don't necessarily trust Deshaun Watson completely either. So the only thing I'd say with Deshaun Watson, though, is you do miss a lot of the big play ability that PJ Walker probably isn't going to bring you. But you look at PFF, and according to PFF, 20 yards plus down the field, Deshaun Watson throws with let's see here. I believe it's a 13% completion rate, if I'm not mistaken. 20 yards, 20 plus yards down the field, he throws with a 13% completion rate. No, 20% completion rate. As compared to PJ Walker, 20 plus yards down the field, he throws with 13% completion rate, which is PJ Walker. So Deshaun Watson, a little bit better of a deep thrower, 20% completion rate compared to 13% completion rate with PJ Walker. And so you're going to probably see a lot of checkdowns, a lot more short passes, which is what the offense was with PJ Walker. I don't know. It's not like Deshaun Watson has really been tearing it up, is all I'm trying to say. So let's move on from that topic because I've been on that for a while. We have some people in the chat. David McNiner saying, I heard the Browns owner was pushing for Deshaun Watson from a Browns fan. Could be. And so then you don't blame Kevin Stefanski for it. I wouldn't, again, if you're a coach, if you're a head coach, and you're kind of, again, guys, because most of the people coming in are 49ers fans. I will get to that in just a second. I'll get to that topic, because I do have 49ers content for you guys. So I will get to a few of the topics, the 49ers section. But right now, I feel like we need to cover some breaking news, which is Deshaun Watson. If you're a coach and you're dealing with a head coach and you're dealing with a lot of players and just player personalities, no head coach is going to want a person like Deshaun Watson around the building. So it would make sense that the owner was pushing for Deshaun Watson because he hasn't been around toxic players because he is an NFL owner, unless he has a background where he was a coach, if you guys know what I'm saying. So that would make more sense because, it's possible the owner saw all of Deshaun Watson's highlights in Houston and said, this guy is amazing. We need to go pick him up while he's still relatively cheap. Well, they didn't pay cheap for him, but while nobody really wants him, we need to go pick him up because this could be a huge reward for us. It hasn't turned out to be a huge reward. Niner Gang podcast, the trade in hindsight looks bad due to when he's played. He hasn't been great, along with the fact he can't stay healthy. Exactly. You kind of boiled it down. I don't know. I should have just said that right off the bat. I was just kind of giving you guys stats and stuff but that's essentially what I'm saying. Yes. The Browns are now starting DTR this week instead of PJ Walker. Really? Okay. Yeah. I mean, at this point, you kind of have to accept that your season is almost over, especially how stacked the AFC is. And so might as well start a young dude, see what you've got in him. I mean, he didn't look that good his last start, but he was also playing, I believe it was the Ravens, one of the best defenses in the league. So for your first start as an NFL rookie, playing the best defense in the league is not how you want to start. So DTR, all power to you. Niner Game podcast. If Young can stay healthy, he will be a great addition. And if he can keep up that production, we will have an unstoppable defensive line. Yes, I will get to that in just a second. The Browns defense is unreal. I will give them credit for sure. Yes, it very, it reminds me of how almost the 49ers defense in 2019, there were some games that we won that game because our defense was just eating off of it really brings me back to the Washington Commanders versus 49ers game in 2019. Our Super Bowl year, our defense was similar to what the Browns defense is now. In 2019, we remember the Commanders versus 49ers game in the rain, where the 49ers ended up winning that game, I think 9-0, and our defense just basically carried us the whole way. That really... The Browns defense reminds me of what we were in 2019. Hopefully we can get back to that point. But let's I guess we could get to some of the 49ers topics now. I was going to wait till a little later on in the show, but let's get to some of them now. We'll get back to a little bit more of the NFL. We still have to talk about Ken Dorsey getting fired as the Bills offensive coordinator and a few other topics, but let's talk about Brock Purdy's performance versus the Jags. I do know that, his anticipation, I feel like a few of the plays, especially against the Vikings, he just anticipated too much. There was an interception that he threw against the Vikings that I think Jawan Jennings was running a crosser route, a deep cross, and Brock Purdy just anticipated way too much, and the safety jumped it, and it got intercepted. It was good anticipation, but it was just the timing was a little bit off with the throw and then the development of the Juwan Jennings route. I feel like in this game, like, he was just on time. He was anticipating right. There was one play that specifically stands out to me early in the game when Brandon Ayuk threw a deep crosser and the anticipation was there. He was able to fit it in right where Brandon Ayuk needed. It was just a dart like 15 yards down the field, just a great throw. There was another play early in the game where it was a quick out to Juwan Jennings, and Juwan Jennings had barely turned his back, and Brock Purdy had already thrown it, and the Jaguars guy was right on him. But because it was such a well-anticipated throw, then he was able to complete it, and it was within tight coverage. To me, Brock Purdy, the only way he's going to complete passes in tight coverage is if he anticipates those type of throws. And so it's going to be really important that he is able to, I guess, anticipate right, but also just like the problem with anticipation and timing and how you throw those type of balls is a player on the route can get kind of messed up on the, like, Juwan Jennings, that interception against the Vikings, go back and look at the all 22. A cornerback bumped him, and so it messed up the timing of the route. And so because the timing was all messed up, Brock Purdy's anticipation was messed up, and it led to an interception. Am I right? Well, I don't know if I'm making sense, but anticipation is what I'm trying to say is anticipation can only get you so far, and there are times when if you anticipate too much, then the timing, let's say the receiver gets bumped on the route by a cornerback and it throws off the timing, and then it leads to a pick because you're anticipating that he's going to be there at this specific moment, and if he's not, it might be a pick. So that's still my concern with him, is just what's the Jags were playing a lot of press man-to-man. Well, no, they were playing on some plays. They were playing more padded man-to-man coverage with a few yards in between the corner and the receiver. And so they weren't able to jam the receivers off of the line, the 49ers receiver off of the line, and it allowed the 49ers receivers the timing was really, like, there was no contact at the line of scrimmage and the timing was really good. And so we'll see if you play press man-to-man corner like coverage, how's it going to look then on Brock Purdy? So let's see here. What else did I have? The only thing is, like, a big thing is, the last thing I'll say before I go with Brock Purdy is a lot of people, like, I've been seeing, like, Jesse Naylor put out a poll. I believe Grant Cohn put out a poll of who's better, 2019 Jimmy or the Brock Purdy now. And all I'll say is Brock Purdy, Jimmy, his whole career, even in 2019, in some moments, he's always been like a very unconfident quarterback down the field. But in some moments, like Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe you guys will disagree with me, but in some moments, he's not confident to throw it down the field, and he's just not confident at all in some moments. But he's also confident, Jimmy Garoppolo, in all the wrong moments, and that leads to a lot of picks. So it's like, but the thing with Brock Purdy is he's confident at all moments, and he's confident that what he sees is right. And so he plays confident all the time, Brock Purdy does. With Jimmy Garoppolo, I feel like it's very up and down. He plays unconfident, and then he's confident, but that confidence is not good, and he's confident he's confident at the wrong times. So I feel like Purdy, a lot different. The confidence is better compared to Jimmy Garoppolo's. His confident ebbs and flows. Well, yeah, I guess that's the word. It's very inconsistent is what I'm trying to say. So that's what I got on Purdy. I don't know how you could compare him and Jimmy Garoppolo. The mobility is better with Purdy. The confidence is better with Purdy. The anticipation is better with Purdy. Purdy's arm is even a little bit better. And I mean, again, some of the throws he threw on Sunday versus the Jags were very dangerous, risky, but he showed time and time again that his confidence is it's a lot of times right. And even like it says that he has 5 interceptions on the season, but one of those interceptions was at the very end of the game versus I feel like that interception number is a little bit skewed because one of those interceptions at the very end of the game was versus the Vikings at the very end of the game when they were playing padded coverage and he wasn't I mean that I don't even really count that interception too much where he sailed it over the defender, but he was under pressure, padded coverage like so he has 5, but I feel like not all of those were like super crucial interceptions. And for the most part, I feel like his confidence has gotten him to the right places that more times than not. So, Niner Gang podcast says Dorsey had to go. He just wasn't cutting it. They needed some new blood, and we'll see how it works out. Niner Gang, Purdy seems to be great when everyone is on the field. Yeah, but then again, it might be also Kyle Shanahan's play calling. You know, maybe Kyle Shanahan's play calling is a lot different when Trent Williams is on the field compared to Jalen Moore, which it obviously is because let me tell you, Jalen Moore is not good. And it's tough to call runs to that side when Trent Williams isn't playing. Same thing with Deebo Samuel. You know, maybe they just don't have enough depth. Maybe he just doesn't trust with Deebo Samuel out. Maybe he just doesn't trust a lot of the 49ers receivers. And so he calls plays different when those two guys, Trent Williams and Deebo Samuel, are out. And maybe that affects Purdy's and the way his numbers work as well. Niner Gang podcast says the stars anyway, got to have Trent and Deebo. Yep. Yes, we always disagree with you, Benji. Oh, man. Okay. Next topic. Will the 49ers defensive line be able to mask their deficiencies? And this was something, let's see here. Niner Game podcast did say that. Will the 49ers defensive line be able to mask some of the deficiencies that they have? In my opinion, the corner position still worries me because it was a good matchup. The Jaguars were a good matchup. They don't have a good offensive line. Trevor Lawrence is among some of the top quarterbacks for getting sacked the most. And although that is due to the bad offensive line, but it also is due to just Trevor Lawrence. He holds the ball longer than most quarterbacks do. And the 49ers were playing press man to man. The Jaguars do have a lot of good wide receivers, but none of them are like super elite where they're going to separate with you right away and they're going to cook you. And so the 49ers basically came into this game saying, we're going to play press man to man and we're going to rely that our defensive line gets there. And that's what they did. But when you have an elite wide receiver, a good offensive line, and a quarterback who is very accurate down the field, those three things are exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles are. They have Devontae Smith and AJ Brown, who are both elite downfield wide receivers. Plus, they have a good offensive line. Plus, they have Jalen Hurts. I'd say, I mean, watching him this year, his deep ball is top 3 in the league. So, again, the style that the 49ers were playing against the Jaguars, I don't think is going to be sustainable against some teams. Against Jared Goff, it might be because Jared Goff can't run out and extend the play. And so against not as mobile quarterbacks, it might be sustainable. But I think the way the 49ers adjusted to man-to-man, press man-to-man coverage was a good thing because if you want to succeed against a lot of teams, you have to play that way. You have to play press man-to-man with your corners, and you have to have a good defensive line. You can succeed that way against a lot of teams. I'm just still concerned that the Eagles are going to get the best of them. Some of the more elite teams are going to get the best of them. So I don't know. And maybe it's going to be so good. Really, the 49ers just have to me, maybe the defensive line is going to be so good that even the Eagles can't even stop them. But that we still need to prove. The 49ers haven't proven enough along that defensive and maybe defensive line. And maybe the Eagles will be no problem for them at all. And maybe they'll give the Eagles a lot of pressure and just a lot of how do you say it? They'll give the Eagles a lot of headaches. But that hasn't been proven. So they need to prove it, because they really haven't. This last game, I feel like, was just a good matchup, bad offensive line, not super elite wide receivers, not a super elite quarterback. So, and I mean, cornerback wise, I'm sorry to say this, but like Lenoir might be doing better than Charvarius Ward. He hasn't been doing bad. I can look. I had his stats up on my phone just a second ago, and they're right here. Lenoir through basically, I think he's almost stayed healthy the whole season. Again, he's had 45 solo tackles, which is second in the league among cornerbacks. 62 targets. He's been targeted 62 times, which is seventh. So he's been targeted a lot, and has allowed 45 receptions, which is tied for fourth in the league. So, and then a cool stat that I also had, I screenshotted this. I don't know if any of you guys saw. So, I mean, he's top 5 wise with he's allowed his target to reception ratio is 4th best in the league. So he's doing really good there. And then another stat is most coverage snaps without allowing a TD, a touchdown. And so he's third. Obviously, number 1 is Brandon Stevens, cornerback for the Ravens, 427 coverage snaps without allowing a touchdown. Kenny Moore, cornerback for the Colts, 377 coverage snaps without allowing a touchdown. And then you have Demonjour Lenoir, who is number 3rd best in the league, 348 coverage snaps without allowing a touchdown. So he's 3rd best in the league when it comes to that, which is very impressive. It's very impressive what Lenoir is doing. But Charvarius Ward also is getting a lot more of the harder assignments versus harder wide receiver compared to Lenoir, who is getting a lot more of the number 2 wide receivers. So, I don't know. I think what they're paying Charvarius Ward, which is $13 million a year, so they're paying him to be a solid corner, and I think he's still pretty solid. But again, solid corners against elite wide receivers like Jamar Chase, A.J. Brown are going to get cooked. So, let's see here. Grandizer says, "Are you ready to get shot at with the cannons? Those Buccaneers are good." I don't know, man. They're all right. I mean, yeah, I think we'll beat them. Again, guys, for you guys who are tuning in, Saturday or maybe tomorrow, I'll post a video breaking down more of the 49ers versus Buccaneers game. And then probably Saturday, I'll post a few more videos breaking down some of the bigger games of the week. So stay tuned for that. I'll break down more of the 49ers versus Bucs game on the weekend. Benching Oliver was a great decision. Oh, yeah, 100%. Our 49ers sacked Dak Prescott 5 times. He took 2.79 seconds to get the ball out. Kirtland, I can't remember if Kirtland Cousins. Was that a joke? Is he meaning that as a joke? Kirtland Cousins? Or with Kirk Cousins was 2.45 seconds. All we need out of our DBs is to cover for 2.79 seconds. And like I said, maybe the press man-to-man, maybe it's going to be enough to cover the Eagles wide receivers for long enough to where we're going to get to Jalen Hurts. Then again, you also have to take into consideration that the Eagles offensive line is a lot better than the Cowboys and the Vikings offensive lines. So those are kind of the Niners topics that I had. I'll stay more in tuned if I hear anything else about them during the week. I did know that we are, I don't know if you guys saw this news, but the 49ers are working out Jason Verrett. So our old friend Jason Verrett, a guy who was very good for us, but just never could stay on the field. He had one good season, he was borderline Pro Bowl type cornerback, Jason Verrett. And so honestly, if we get him back, I mean, he might not be that good, but starting him at nickel corner is better than starting as freaking Isaiah Oliver at that position. So, and it's honestly, is Jason Verrett better after a few weeks of practice than Ambry Thomas? He could be. He could be. So we'll see. Hey, maybe the Niners, he'll end up starting for us at nickel later on in the year. I don't know. We'll see. Let's get to the next topic, though. Moving off of kind of the 49ers topics, Bill Belichick's future is uncertain with the Patriots. And the reason why, there's been a lot of speculation. I won't spend too much time on this topic, but there's kind of been a lot of speculation of like, where will he actually leave the Patriots? Are they going to break up after many, many years? And my thing is, yeah, I think the Patriots at this point, I'm trying to find my notes. Let's see. Yeah, okay, here we go. At this point, it's like it would make sense, right? Because Bill Belichick drafted Mac Jones. Not a great look on him. A lot of his draft picks really, and again, they don't have any general manager in New England. He is his own general manager. A lot of his draft picks haven't hit in recent years. And so I think it is. I think the Patriots need to bring in young blood that's going to bring in a new system. And again, the new team that he's going to go to me, is going to probably be the Washington Commanders. That's a really good team. Or, it would be funny if he went to the Raiders. I'm just kidding. He's not going to do that. But, I mean, Commanders are a great team. Even the Bills, if Sean McDermott, I'll talk about that in a little bit. If Sean McDermott gets fired this year, the Bills wouldn't be a bad team. He needs to go to a team with an established quarterback. He needs to go to a team with established wide receivers. That's why I feel like the Washington Commanders would be like a good team for him to go to, because they have Terry McLaurin, they have Jahan Dotson, they have established good wide receivers. And he needs to go to a team, the next team he goes to, that team, that owner needs to make it essential that he is not the general manager as well. Because I feel like when you're a coach and general manager at the same time, historically, it's never worked out well. If you guys remember, Chip Kelly for the Eagles was a coach and general manager when he had that horrible stint years ago with the Eagles. And I just feel like it's not like, historically, it's, if you look back, you're not very successful when you're a head coach and a general manager at the same time. So the next team he goes to, you need to make sure that you bring a guy alongside him that's going to take a little bit more of the workload off of him and just get him back to designing plays. That's really how it's going to have to be. You have to make it an essential possibility. Grandizer says, Benny, how is school? How is track? All good. How is your Halloween? I don't really celebrate Halloween a ton anymore. School has been kind of stressful because I'm a junior and I'm trying to get a running scholarship for cross country and track. And so I'm applying to colleges and writing a bunch of different letters and stuff like that. And just, I'm trying to figure out which college I'm going to go to. So it's been a little bit stressful. That's why I'm only doing really one live show per week. How do you usher out the league's best head coach? Don't see Kraft doing Coach Belichick wrong. Yeah, but in his defense, you could say, you've been a great coach, but we need to go a different way. This really isn't like I don't know. I feel like, again, the Patriots and there was a report that came out that they're going to potentially work out an agreement where it's not going to be like firing Bill Belichick, but it's like a mutual agreement that they will part ways. So I don't know if they're necessarily going to fire him, but I don't know. I feel like it's just better to bring in young blood. But yeah, moving on to the next topic. I kind of kept that one short. We have, do we only have one more topic? We have two more topics left to go. And this one, Grand Eyes will like. The Dolphins offense is underrated and gets too much hate. I feel like ever since the Dolphins lost to the Chiefs and got a little bit exposed, a lot of people, and then over the bye week, people have had time to marinate on that loss and have been saying the Dolphins offense isn't as good as everyone says it is. In a way, that is true. But we are missing Devon Achane, or Achan. I guess it's Achan. He was a huge part. I feel like he is the most underrated player right now in the NFL. He is a huge part to what the Dolphins did. And without Achan, they lost a lot of their speed on the field at one time. And teams could just start focusing on covering Tyreek Hill and covering Jalen Waddle. But when you have that fast of a running back outside of the out of the backfield, it's really hard to cover all three: Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, which, by the way, Jalen Waddle's been injured. He's been hurt. So he's not been at 100%. And don't tell me, they still have Raheem Mostert. Raheem Mostert is kind of old, and he's not the same running back he used to be. He never really has been super elite. Devon Achane has just been obviously really fast, but young legs. And with him back, it's like now you have Raheem Mostert, who in his career, when he's at his best, is not when he's a workhorse back. It's when he's getting 8 to 10 carries per game, and his workload is very light. Keep his legs fresh. Otherwise, he gets injured. Raheem Mostert. Devon Achane, if you split the carries between him and Mostert, you all of a sudden have a really good running back room. But just Mostert, it's like they don't really have much of a run game. And that makes Tua look bad. Who, by the way, Tua, you look at his completion percentage, his yards, his TDs, his accuracy. I was looking at PFF. I don't have the numbers pulled up in front of me, but he's been very accurate, very good this year. So I think he's getting too much hate. I think Devon Achane this week is going to prove that the Dolphins were missing a huge playmaker, and they're getting too much hate, that offense. Coach Belichick leaves when he is ready to leave. He tells Kraft when he is ready to go, Grandizer says. Yeah, and maybe Bill Belichick wants to go this year as well. Who knows? It might not be this year. All I'm saying is maybe he wants to go, maybe Bill Belichick wants to go after this year as well. Maybe he's just tired of coaching the Patriots. I don't know. Also, that team is trash. If you're an NFL head coach, especially an old NFL, I haven't even really been looking at my notes, but this is another note that I had. If you're an old NFL coach, you don't want to spend all of this time developing and restructuring a new team. You want to go to a team that is somewhat established. That's why I feel like the Bills would be such a good destination for Bill Belichick. But also, here's another thing that I never thought of, is when you go to the next team that does get Bill Belichick, if there is a next team, they need to make sure that the offensive coordinator is a leader and is a player-friendly guy, because that's what's missing in New England. That's what was missing in Las Vegas, was a leader who could resonate with the players. That's why the Texans are so good, because they have D'Amico Ryans, who not only is smart, but also is just a player coach. That's why Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers is so good, because Kyle Shanahan has always historically been said to be a player's coach who resonates to players. So you need to make sure that when you bring in Bill Belichick, you bring in a guy who is also going to kind of gel that whole locker room together. I wish I looked at my notes more often, because that was a good note that I made, and I just didn't. I don't know. Grandizer says, Benjamin, please don't talk about the Dolphins. You always do my Dolphins dirty. I keep asking you to get the Dolphins content creators on your stream. What? I was just saying good things about your Dolphins. I was saying that they've been getting a lot of hate. That hate is very uneducated. I was talking, I don't know. And I mean, honestly, I should have more content creators on the stream, but he has been, sorry, not he. It's been very, it's been busy, so it's been hard to get guests on. A-Chan, the E is silent. I remember watching him in college, and I feel like every time the commentators would call him A-Chain. So Coach Belichick leaves like when Coach Don Shula left. He goes after he reaches a milestone, the all-time winning record. Isn't he close to doing that, like a few games away? Anyway, last topic of the day. Ken Dorsey is fired as Bills offensive coordinator. Again, I'm not going to keep you too long with this one, but the claims were with Sean McDermott. He was claiming that the offense isn't balanced, and that was all Ken Dorsey's fault. And I mean, in a way, you're looking, I mean, James Cook, their lead back, versus the Broncos, he had 9 rush attempts. Versus the Bengals, James Cook had 6 rush attempts. Versus the Bucks, running backs in general ran it just 20 times. So the Bills for years now have not been a balanced offensive team. But at the same time, I feel like Ken Dorsey was a little bit of a scapegoat. Like, if you're Sean McDermott, you're not saying that, like, I feel like if you're Sean McDermott, some of that blame has to go on you. And so that is why I feel like if the offense doesn't dramatically improve to a more balanced offense, McDermott, you could see him being fired very soon as well. And it's not even like you don't have talented running backs. James Cook at times this year has shown that he is a talented running back. You also have Latavius Murray, who as a number 2 back isn't bad. He really isn't. He's old, but he's still pretty solid. So yes, if the offense does not dramatically improve and they do not have success more, and Josh Allen does not have success more, then I could see Sean McDermott getting fired as well, because I don't think it all lies on Ken Dorsey. But the struggles of Josh Allen have been real. I mean, throwing a lot of picks, and you know what, whether that's his decision making or just the play calls, it's probably a little bit of both. But Ken Dorsey a scapegoat or not? Yes, he 100% is. But anyways, guys, this has been 45-minute show. We've gone through, I believe it's 7 topics. I'll be back probably this weekend with a few videos. I'll post clips from this show, hopefully, if I have time. And then I'll be back this weekend with a few more videos breaking down some of the more matchups of this week. I also have a video coming out, breakout rookies that were not drafted in the first round, but have contributed majorly to their team. I'll be coming out with that video. Yeah, this has been a fun show. Is Josh Allen human after all? The Bills fired Ken Dorsey because their window is closing. The Bills might not even make the playoffs. Good deal. Yeah, because I mean, you're a Dolphins fan, so you hate the Bills. I do feel like it is closing a little bit. The injuries that they have, little unfortunate along the defense. Yeah, and it really did seem that 2020, wait, was it 2020 year was their year and they lost. Final thoughts. Any 49ers news that really caught your attention? Us working out Jason Verrett, I thought that was a little intriguing to you. Oh, to me. Hate is such a strong word. Dislike. You dislike the Bills. Okay. Anyway, guys, I'll see you. Look for my videos as the week goes on. I maybe will be going live on Saturday, but otherwise there will be videos posted during the rest of the week. See you guys. Have a good rest of your night.